I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like I'm on top of the world.
Disclaimer, you will not be transported to the top of the world. In the unlikely event you find yourself at the Arctic Circle, seek shelter from the elements immediately to avoid frostbite and or hypothermia. Geico will not be responsible if you find yourself in a cave or crevasse with a lonely abominable snowman, who in all likelihood will force you to play games including but not limited to Go Fish, charades, Chinese checkers, or his personal favorite, Red Rover, send Yeti on over. Geico is not liable for any damages, either physical or emotional.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
The faithful are out with us here this morning as we have taken the bus and made our way to Atlanta for the national championship game in college football inside the beautiful, we should say, Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta.
Though. It's a little small.
Well, it's a cottage.
Yeah.
It's not going to quite fit on tiny homes on HGTV.
No, it's not.
We are delighted you're here with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic, and David Pollack is here, college football analyst, three-time All-American at the University of Georgia. Big part of the experience leading up to the game tonight. Again, if you're watching us on ESPN2, the field is behind us where Alabama and Georgia will play it out for the national championship. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests joined us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And as we occasionally do, Mike, we have dressed the set with donuts.
Yes, we have.
Because you are a donut connoisseur.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you just stuffed your face with a donut before.
I occasionally nibble on the donuts. I dabble in the donuts.
Nibble? Those are huge bites. That was not nibbles.
Well, we'll find out pretty soon here. Because David Pollack, you look at him now and you think, oh, he probably was a safety, maybe a slot receiver when he played in the NFL. No, you were a defensive lineman and a linebacker.
Yeah.
I did his games when he was in Georgia.
He was out to here when he played.
It's a big one.
A lot of thickness.
Your neck size is what now?
I don't know.
I'm going to guess
that's where you went. You asked his neck size.
What was do you know what your neck size when you played?
It was plus 20. I can promise you that.
It's ridiculous.
It was aggressive.
So he has gone basically to half of what he was. And one of the reasons that we have the donuts on the table, because you said earlier this year that if Georgia somehow made it to the national championship game, you would eat 12 donuts?
I think it was 3 for making it, 3 for winning the first one, and then we kept adding to it.
So we're at least 9 then. We're at least 9 donuts that you said you would do. Right?
I think we're at 6, but okay, if they win tonight,
we're at 6.
We go even higher.
And when's the last time you had a donut?
I have not had a donut in at least 10 years.
When's the last time you had sugar?
I haven't had a sweet. I mean, I have sugar and fruit, but I haven't had a sweet in 10 plus years.
What is wrong with you?
Wow.
Listen,
it looks great, so I guess maybe not a whole lot.
Well, you look fine. You eat sweets.
Listen. I
look like garbage, but I admit that. I mean, I own my garbage.
I have a very addictive personality. Alcohol, gambling, that kind of stuff wouldn't be good for me. Okay,
right.
So I don't need to start the sweets too. Once we stopped, and we couldn't go back. I mean, there's no returning.
So you like at least 6 now, maybe 9. We're just asking for 1. Are you going to pay this off at the end of this segment and you'll eat a donut?
I don't see why not.
Okay, there we go.
I guess.
Wow.
That might be the biggest upset no matter what else happens in this stadium.
The internet is going to explode.
I have to do it anyways, but I'm just letting you know this counts for one of my other ones.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
And by the way, that is the Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. Phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, we have to save plenty of room at the end of this segment to make sure David pays off.
Hey, I'll make it easy. I'll eat one with you.
Y'all don't mind that at all. It doesn't seem like it.
That would not count as one of your other ones, just so you know.
That's perfect. We all eat one together. That's 3.
No, you got to eat them all. Right. So we'll get to that a little bit later, and we'll get to the national championship game here in a minute. But again, you were a defensive player in the NFL for the Cincinnati Bengals. Mike had to deal with this when he was playing for the Eagles. Sometimes that offense just didn't quite do what they wanted to do. As a defensive player, put yourself in the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive meeting rooms, right? I mean, that defense is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. They closed out the game with an incredible interception by Jalen Ramsey, although some people in Pittsburgh are like, how is that different from Jesse James's non-touchdown?
With the Ben Koyak catch?
Or the Jalen Ramsey catch.
Interception.
Which was the interception.
Right. Gotcha.
How is that different from the game against the Patriots? But at the end of the day, they still have a game to play. They have an opportunity to move on to the AFC Championship game against a team they've beaten. How do you say, we get it. The offense in Blake is struggling, but we got to make sure we're together as a team.
Well, you just try to do it all then. And I vividly remember Georgia, and Mike was covering our games then too, is we didn't have a great offense. And, we knew what we had to do. And I remember we played Vanderbilt, and we were up at the half, or Vanderbilt was up at the half 2-0. It was 2-0. And It was a miserable performance from our offense. Our offense goes down the field and kicks a field goal, and I look at Thomas Davis and Odell Thurman, and I said, ball game.
Yep.
I mean, so that's what they got to understand. That they just got to play great, and they got to understand that it's going to ride on them. Listen, the Baltimore Ravens won a Super Bowl with just defense, and obviously Trent Dilfer did pretty good, but they were scoring.
Broncos did it. Super Bowl 50,
they got to
basically.
find ways to create turnovers, help their offense as much as possible. You're not expecting that offense to go bananas. It's not going to happen.
And also, talk about in that locker room what the air has to be. I mean, the defense, while in their own meetings, may be like, hey, guys, we got to take care of business.
Yeah.
But in that team meeting, they have to be behind that
We believe you, Blake.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I know you had more rushing yards than passing yards, but we still won.
Yeah.
We'll need you next week. You know what I thought was bizarre? Did you think it was bizarre when he was talking about he didn't have his first pitch and you got to go to your off-speed pitch in the interview after the game? I was like,
no.
I've never heard a quarterback say that.
No.
Like, I didn't have my fastball. Well, okay.
Did you play golf, right?
Very little.
Okay, we were talking about someone brought in. It's like he had the yips.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it wasn't like he was missing tight windows. These were screens.
Yeah,
These
short
were
passes.
It's pretty documented how bad people, have hated on him and how much pressure is on him. I mean, you could tell he's feeling it. And to address that and say that kind of stuff, it was kind of strange.
But as David Pollack is here with us, we're here in Atlanta for the national championship game. That's what's so weird because there was a 3-game stretch down the end of the regular season. Weeks 13, 14, 15. First time in his career. 3 straight games, multiple touchdown passes, no interceptions. And then 16 and 17 were terrible. And that might have been the worst game I've seen him play in a long time.
I started him on my fantasy team for the championship game.
How'd that work out?
It worked out great. It was garbage time, and he got 380 yards
San Francisco.
Yes,
absolutely.
It was amazing. But it's not fantasy's not reality. But he's got to find a way, obviously, to help his team out because they can run the football too, and they got several backs, and it wasn't pretty the other day.
No, it wasn't. And the other game on Sunday, obviously, was the Saints and the Panthers. And as a former defensive player, you have to have loved the way the Saints have made this team into not just about Drew Brees and not just about his arm, but it's about the running game and also that defense. They closed out Carolina with a sack.
They've never played defense.
Never.
They've never played. I mean, you always felt bad for Drew Brees. It was kind of Peyton Manning-esque.
Right.
You know, he had to go out every year and
when he was with the Colts.
Yes, when he was with the Colts, throw for so many yards and score the ball and never had a running game and never had a defense. And now all of a sudden, one great draft and you're right there in the mix and you're playing great defense. And Kamara's been one of the most fun players to watch in all of football.
He has,
Because here's the thing, Darren Sproles was fun to use, but Darren Sproles was slightly built. You couldn't ride him. I mean, this guy is obviously a little bit thicker, but the versatility he brings and then, the way they closed it out, give it the big play to McCaffrey, but then got the Cameron Hayward was
He was
absolutely
man
down the
beast
stretch.
going through 1, 2, and sometimes 3 people. But to your point, Kamara on offense, Lattimore on defense, the draft picks really, really paying off for them. All right, as we look ahead to the national championship game tonight, Georgia against Alabama. First, preparation. As ball players, we are always preparing for games, some bigger than others. Is it an advantage in your mind that basically all the players on Alabama are used to this stage? And for Georgia, as we know, it's been 37 years since a national championship or and more than a few years since the monster stage. Yeah. Is that a difference? Is there an advantage?
I think you have to look at that and you have to say it's somewhat of an advantage, but you also know too, like it's also kind of old hat for some of those Bama guys and Georgia fans, these kids grew up on this for their lifetime going, I want to win a championship, I want to do this, and at Georgia, it hadn't happened since Herschel was there.
Right.
And I don't know if you see him. I mean, he still looks like he's 30.
Here.
But he looks like he's 30, but he's not.
I believe we're staring down the gun barrel at Herschel Walker.
Former teammate of mine in Philadelphia many years ago.
So obviously, it's been a long time. So I think the excitement and the emotion is going to, and the adrenaline is going to be there in full force. Now, does that lead to some nerves? And does that lead to some early mistakes? Because I'll say this. I thought early in the game at the Rose Bowl, I thought Georgia played with a little bit of nerve. And they struggled a little bit and defensively putting their eyes where they belonged. And offensively, you saw Fromm miss a few throws early. But, that's going to be the interesting thing. I think you're going to know really early. And if they struggle out the gates against Bama, it's obviously a different animal.
Was there to you, just a settling in difference in the second half or a true X's and O's adjustment? There's always adjustments made, I know that, but was it more adjustment or more that they just kind of settled in and played?
It was both of them, to be honest. But listen, here's the thing. When you can't, it's baptism by fire. You cannot replicate that tempo. And Georgia did it for 3 weeks, in practice. Oklahoma lives it. That's what they do every day, all day of the year. I mean, they are a tempo team all the time. So you saw it early. They're getting lined up. Georgia didn't even get lined up several plays, and they're snapping the football, and you make mistakes. And here's the thing, lining up, knowing your tendencies, playing your side, but then somebody goes in motion, you're like, which one of y'all kicked me? You know what I mean? Yeah. Figure everything out. So I think you could see at the end of the second quarter, the eyeball started to slow down. The eyeball started to get dialed in. They started to make them earn it a little bit more. And then they got more physical. They got more aggressive. Listen, Andrews didn't go anywhere without getting beat up. I mean, they put their hands on him everywhere. They hit Mayfield a couple times, and you could tell that rattled him a little bit or sped up his clock a little bit. And then all of a sudden, the offense was already doing their thing. So it was more aggressiveness, more people near the line of scrimmage, more physicality, but also they got used to the tempo.
David Pollack here with us on Golic and Wingo as we are here in Atlanta for the national championship game tonight. And what you just said, I thought was the best thing Kirby Smart did. As he was coming off the field at halftime at the Rose Bowl, he admitted it. Hey, look, we're playing way too fast. We just need to go in and calm down and play our ball. And he said, let's play our best 30 minutes, and we'll see what happens. And obviously it was good enough as they won in overtime. So if we spin this forward, and let's assume, for the sake of this discussion, that they don't have that sort of bright lights, big city moment against Alabama in the first half. Let's say Georgia comes out and plays their best football for 60 minutes. And Alabama, as we expect them to do, will play their best football for 60 minutes. If both teams are on their A game, what do you expect?
I expect both to be on their A game, and I expect it to be a more defensive slugfest. Who makes the mistake? Who makes the turnover? And one thing that I'll lean towards Georgia on is special teams. Rodrigo, you saw him last game, hit a 55-yarder, huge play. I think you could depend on them. And what you've seen from Alabama when they have lost, they have been beating special teams. Kick six come to mind. You talk about Ole Miss fumbles. You've seen LSU, the game of the century. Listen, we can't point to many losses for Bama over the years, but you've seen special teams play a part in that. So I think if both played their best games, I think it's very, very even, and whoever could maybe win that special teams battle, which I would give the advantage to Georgia, so I'd say, I guess, Georgia. Now, that's if everybody played great.
Right. Talk about the one guy, and I think could be the X factor, and it's interesting the similarity. 37 years ago when Georgia won the national championship, they beat Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, and there was a certain freshman that did really well in that game. A guy named Herschel Walker.
He was pretty good.
You got a freshman in this game, Jake Fromm, who got the job early on. First start was up at Notre Dame and gets that win there. So talk about, I use the word poise, and forgetting even a freshman, I think he's got poise even if he were a senior, of how well he's playing and the importance of him. I think it's going to be hard for Georgia to just line up and run. If this guy can hit a few over the linebackers and get them at least on their heels a little or to be thinking about that, I think that could be a huge difference in the game. Give us your breakdown of Fromm.
Nobody who watches football believes Georgia's going to line up and pound Alabama. That ain't happening. Nobody's doing that. They're not going to allow you to do that. So you're going to have to trust your young quarterback to make plays. You trust his poise. There's no doubt. Like he's unflappable. He's even-keeled. Can he make the plays down the field with his arm? The best ball he throws is a back shoulder fade. Mm-hmm. He throws the deep ball well. That's what you have to do to Alabama. You have to take shots, and he's done an amazing job. And listen, the whole season has been great for Georgia. It's all laid out. The stars have aligned. If you think about it, the four guys that stay, Bellamy, Carter, Michelle, Chubb, they stay, they provide depth, they provide pop. You're here because of that. Think about the injury to Jacob Eason to start the season. Now Fromm gets a taste, and you go, oh, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
We're going to leave him in there. And then you talk about 0 season-ending injuries. They haven't had one season-ending injury this year. This program isn't in a point like it is with Alabama where you can put next guy in, next five-star. They're not as deep. And so it's kind of been a perfect storm for Georgia. Now they come into here healthy. Their quarterback's a lot more seasoned. By the way, do you trust him? 2 minutes left in the Rose Bowl against Oklahoma's defense, not near the same animal. He goes down the field and he gets you a touchdown. So I think you do trust him, and you got to put the ball in his hands tonight on 1st and 10. The problem, it sucks when it's 2nd and 10 and you miss. Right. But you have to do some of that.
When they were throwing on 1st and 10, man, what a dangerous offense can be when you're 2nd and 4.
I think he was 9 out of 10.
It was ridiculous. And the thing about it is, you talk about a freshman quarterback and you can't be afraid to put it in his hands. And they're not. You are going ahead and take your chances with him. It's not like we have to pare anything down. He's got the playbook, and I think there's a lot of trust in him.
No, and there should be. I mean, you look at 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and He's been very even keeled. The moment's never been too big. So how much time do we have left, Trey? Because if I keep talking, we might get through the ending here.
We're making sure that's not. I have one goal.
I'm going to drop a filibuster up in this piece.
I have one goal here. My job is very simple: to leave enough time for you to inhale a donut. We're Golic and Wingo live from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the College Football Playoff National Championship game, which is presented by Progressive Insurance. Nothing will be more progressive in this segment than David eating that donut. It seems like we spent a lot of time talking about Georgia and how they can win and what they need to do to win. On the other side is Alabama, and I almost get the feeling like because people are talking about Georgia and these things, and they're like, hey, we're just here. This is what we do. Yeah. You can go ahead and doubt us all you want. We're just going to show up and be the Alabama that we know we are.
I think we saw that in the Sugar Bowl, huh?
Boy, didn't we.
When they kicked Clemson right in the teeth.
Just squeezed the life out of them. They just squeezed the life out of them.
And listen, they had those 4 weeks for everybody to go, Ohio State should have been in. And Nick didn't need a sports psychologist that he's got on call 24/7.
No rat poison necessary.
He didn't need any of that. I mean, he was able to keep him motivated. I talked to an Alabama player yesterday that literally said those practices for the bowl game was by far the most physical and best practices of their season. Every single one of them was back-to-back physical, and then you saw them come out and play, and they played their best game. And defensively, they looked great. They didn't rush the passer great down the stretch of the season. They pressured Kelly Bryant on 50% of his throws. I mean, they literally look like a different guy. Anthony Jennings got hurt, which is unfortunate because I think he was the best player on the field that night. Just adds to the injuries which they've had this season and have compounded upon each other. But, yeah, Alabama's going to do Alabama. The 5 championship games under Saban, by the way, 0 turnovers.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
0.
So they're not going to lose the game.
No.
And that is so Belichick.
I was just going to say, let the other team make the mistake. Belichick. We take advantage of it. And you mentioned the practice. It's interesting. The comparison I would make was Jimmy Johnson in Dallas. Yeah. The years they won those first couple of Super Bowls. I remember talking to those guys saying our Super Bowl week practices were crazy. I mean, that's when they put pads on. Now you don't allow 14 padded practices and stuff. Back then you could have pads on. We'd have pads on Fridays on times. He said those were some of the hardest practices we had getting ready for the Super Bowl. So like Nick Saban is doing now and has done, where is their weakness? Where do you attack them? What can you try and force them to do to give you the edge?
Well, offensively, you have to make Jalen Hurts pass the football. He's a winner. He's 25-2 as a starter, and his touchdown-interception ratio looks like he'd be the best decision-maker in college football. It's 17-1. But he's not a progression passer. He's not a guy that's going to go 1, 2, 3 and really kill you. So if I'm playing against them, I'm making him pass the football. I'm committing more guys to the run. He loves to throw short stuff. I'm taking that away. He loves to throw quick stuff over the middle of the field. I'm taking that away. I'm making him beat me down the field. And listen, I think that's the weakness of the Georgia defense. They give up. They are susceptible to big plays down the field. Can he make them pay for that? And then if you flip it on the other side, Bama's good, and they're better. They're good up front, and they're good. But they're not as good as they used to be. Their corners are very small guys. They're great players. They're physical. They're technicians. Wims on the outside, I think, is the key to the game for Georgia. Yeah. He's 6'4". He's an enormous target. He's got to win the jump balls. You got to make those shots down the field because again, Nick, just like Kirby, he's not going to let you line up and run those tailbacks. Michelle and Chubb ain't doing what they did to Oklahoma.
No chance.
There ain't no at half, Michelle averaged 49 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Chubb averaged 15. Yeah. They might not have 2 15-yard. They might not have 2 15-yard runs the whole game. I mean, it's going to be. You have to earn it.
Yeah, the Jalen Hurts point is great because on the first touchdown pass to Calvin Ridley in the Sugar Bowl, yes, he was wide open at the beginning of the play, and Hurts didn't see him. Yep. And then when he was on the move, he found him and made a great play there. You mentioned the injuries to Alabama, and we'll be quick here because we have something else we need to do. We got Minkah Fitzpatrick with the kidney injury. How much do you think the injuries may hamper the strength of Alabama here?
Well, it hampers them because Anthony Jennings is not going to play. Cotton, their right guard's out. I mean, now he rotated, so I don't think that's as big as a blow. But, I mean, it's just the totality of the injuries throughout the season that's kind of added up. And, Alabama's Alabama, and they're not going to have guys that come in that are scrubs.
They got future NFL players are their substitutes.
They got a lot of stars next to their name.
Here comes our 2-star.
It's just not. Here
comes a 4th-round pick.
But if you can get the depth going, and you can't. Last year the tempo was the big thing for Clemson. If you can have them playing more players that aren't as familiar with the system, and like Mosley plays at linebacker, he's light and a high knee. He's 210 pounds, maybe. I mean, you want to get to some of those guys and physicality, run game, and stuff like that. And let's keep going.
We're done.
Okay,
so So for those of you not watching on ESPN2, David Pollack is paying off a bet. He said he would eat donuts if Georgia made it to the national championship game.
This one's the smallest one.
He has not the biggest one. Go for it. Go for the one with all the sugar and all the sprinkles. He's surveying a tray of donuts right now. He hasn't had a sweet or a donut in 10 years. He's picked up, looked like a Krispy Kreme glaze.
Yeah.
Looks very solid.
Is that good?
Golic's watering at the idea.
Back off, Barbie.
Again, he hasn't had a donut or sugar in 10 years.
Golic, you want to lead off and show him how to do it?
Yeah,
why don't you that and just inhale the entire thing?
That is a massive bite. You just got in there, didn't you?
Let's go.
I'm trying to roll.
Let's go, David. And he is ingesting the donut. He's got the first bite. He seems to be okay.
When it hits your lips,
it feels so good when it hits your lips. He's now doing old school Will Ferrell.
I will admit, it's really good.
Go ahead.
Get in there on that.
Polish the whole thing.
Go on.
Hold on. Good Lord.
No. You got to eat a ton of these. All right, second bite down. Now, let's see. You just got to be aggressive.
Well, you went and did that. Somebody needs to be play-by-play. You just gave that up.
Who's going to talk now?
I'm busy at the moment. You got to finish it for me, guys. You got halfway? Go ahead.
I'll just go ahead and go with this one. I'll go Trey on this.
Go ahead and get it done. Wow. Well done. First donut, or artificial sugar, I should say, in 10 years. 10 years. Now, you're supposed to eat more of those. We'll let you do that on your own time. We just wanted to start that thing off. I have a feeling, though, it's going to wake up some of those senses that haven't been woken up in a while for you. I want to be jonesing for donuts later.
I want to see him in 10 minutes. He's going to be shaking. He's going to be over the fetal position.
He's going to be over the corner with a Toblerone.
I got too much energy anyways. I'm going to be all over the place. We don't need any more of that.
Well done on your part.
I'll tell you what.
Way to pay it off.
Y'all were two of the most shocked people I've ever seen when I told you
I didn't think you were going to do it. I didn't think you were going to do it.
Oh,
so kudos to you.
I had to do it. Come on.
10 years. I couldn't go 10 days without that. But it's impressive. It looks great.
You've been doing something different.
I've been doing them.
You hadn't been killing them like you used to.
I've been killing them less.
Speaking of having some donuts, he had some donuts in his neck.
We had it over the collar.
Yeah,
we had it over the collar.
Oh, yeah. I was sitting on an air hose. I mean, there's just no doubt about that.
David,
Good
well
job,
done.
David.
We
well
appreciate
done.
that.
Well done.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for stopping by. David Pollack with us here, and he ate the donut. Golic and Wingo serving as the hype man, if you will, tonight for the national championship game tonight here in Atlanta. We're glad you're here with us, whether it's on ESPN Radio or ESPN2. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, but we've had a cavalcade of people joining us here on the set, and no greater Georgia. Look, with all due respect to David Pollack and Maria Taylor, who were both on with us earlier, when you talk about greats in Georgia football, it starts and ends with Herschel Walker, the goal line stalker. Herschel Walker is here, ladies and gentlemen. And the Georgia fans in attendance very happy to see Herschel here.
He looks as good as he did. We were teammates in Philly in '92 together, and everything you heard about him from not need a lot of sleep and what he does in his workout routine was all true. Yeah. I saw it all. It was like, oh my gosh! And it looks like he could still do all of it right now. You look great, but I can't remember a day that you haven't. See, you would be like my goal. I've always wanted to be able to do things out in public with my shirt off. I don't know if you've ever had it.
You're looking good.
Yeah, but if I take it off,
he doesn't look that good.
I look like a vanilla milkshake. It doesn't look great, okay? It just doesn't look
your
great.
milkshake? No, it doesn't.
And you just did the Heisman House one where you still had your shirt off too. You know, I mean, you looked great and it was fantastic. So, but go back now, 37 years. You were a freshman. It was against my team, my former team in Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl, and it was different then. Obviously, you win this game, you're the national champ. Back then, it was a poll system. But take us back to your freshman year and that game and the meaning for Georgia.
Well, that year was a very incredible year because we had a lot of leadership, which is what this team here has. They have a lot of leadership. We had a senior class that was absolutely incredible. We had great coaching, which is what this team got as well. So that's what's so familiar to me right now is this team 2017 is just like the team of 1980. They have the leadership, they have the senior class, and they're doing a lot of great things. And I think that's what's going to make a difference here.
Well, look, there has been that leadership and there's been that inspiration from a freshman player, much like yourself, the quarterback Jake Fromm. By the way, we should point out Herschel Walker is here on behalf of the True American Hero truck giveaway. Head to gives.rockyridgetrucks.com for your chance to win a 2018 Rocky Ridge Silverado. And I believe the truck is going to be in the stadium here tonight?
The truck is here, and it's in an American hero. I call them first responder. Military, former military veterans that's in the military that have done great things, or any first responder can go to Rocky Ridge Give and register by the end of February. In March, we're going to give away a truck.
That's awesome. That's a great job out of you right there.
And
Very
if
cool.
anybody should represent trucks, it should be Herschel Walker.
You're not kidding.
Who spent his entire college
he can
and
run
NFL
faster
career
than him or like one.
just trucking over people.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up the workout, and it was legendary. What, it was like 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 push-ups a day. How many do you still do a day?
Well, now because I've been doing the MMA, I'm doing about 1,500 push-ups today, about 3,500 sit-ups. And, I've been very fortunate, and I'm not just getting back on Rocket Ridge for the military, but I'm at a base once a month all over the world doing PT with the troops and everything. And that's why I think that they deserve a lot more credit than we're giving them.
No question.
Without a doubt. Your physicality and how easy the game started as a freshman. I talked about Jake Fromm, and it's not as physical, obviously, as when you're a running back taking the hits. But the poise he's showing, and as his teammates say, natural leadership, but he's also performing well. Go back, you're a freshman. I mean, you're just entering into college. Why did the game seem so easy to you, or why did it go the way it did so
Look at him.
Well,
Look at him, Mike.
I don't know
Look
whether
at
it was
him.
easy or whether I was just too naive and stupid to realize what I was doing, because I think just having that leadership of the senior class, that one thing that Coach Doolittle mentioned to us when we first started the season, he said, if we stay together as a team, we believe in each other, we can accomplish some great things. And I think that senior class continued to sort of drill that into our heads as freshmen, that we started to understand what he was talking about. And I think that's what Jake Fromm has. But you also got to remember, I think because of our Twitter, because of Instagram, because of Facebook, these guys become stars before they can even step on the field. So he was a star anyway because, he played in a Little League World Series.
Right.
He's already had that recognition.
But what's interesting is he wasn't the starter at the beginning of the year. It was an injury to Eason that got him there. For you, just a little backdrop on you, when were you immediately the starter? How many practices did it take to be the starter? How many defenders did you run over where they said, you're now the starter? How did that work?
It was almost the same thing that happened with Jake. When I got into Tennessee, there was a couple of guys in front of me, and we were behind 15-0, and I think there was a little crowd in the stand that started shouting, "We want Herschel." And I think Coach Doolittle decided to give me a chance, and that was the first time I ever touched the ball in the second quarter in the Tennessee game in 1980. And same thing with Jake. Jake just was fortunate enough that someone got injured, and he was ready to play. And I think that shows the kind of person he was, that he was ready. Some guys are never ready because they don't really pay attention to what's going on. So when it's their time to step up, they're not ready to step up.
Herschel Walker here with us on Golic and Wingo as we are here in Atlanta for the national championship game tonight. You mentioned being ready mentally. And look, both these teams have big, strong guys. There's no question about that. Now, Alabama may pass the eye test a little better than Georgia. They always seem to do that. But how much of this game is going to come down to physicality, and how much of this is going to go down to being mentally ready for the stage that you're on tonight?
Well, I think the mental part is going to play a big role. And the reason it's going to play a big role is going to play a big role in the Georgia favor, because Alabama looked at their season as we got to make it back to the national championship. Georgia looked at their season, we got to win the next game. And I think going into this game here, Alabama is prepared. They're prepared to go out and play a good game because they thought they were going to be facing Clemson. There's no doubt. I felt they thought they were going to be facing Clemson. Well, now they're going to face a team that is very similar to them. I think we're going to be looking at two teams that's going to be very similar, but I think they're going to be a little bit surprised that Georgia is a little bit quicker than what they thought they were. I think people are going to be surprised at what Georgia can do.
So what you bring up a lot, and I love to hear it about the seniors and what they mean to the team and how they can help. How do these seniors for Georgia do it? Because for Alabama seniors, it's like, hey, guys, this is kind of like last year or the year before. For Georgia, it's not. So does that make it even more important for the seniors to keep this team on track?
Well, I think it make it more important because there was a lot of seniors on Georgia team that could have went pro last year. And they said, no, guys, we're going to stay and win a championship. Well, that's a big word to say. We're going to stay here another year to win a championship. Well, they're here, so the time now is calling. And I said it's going to be a game where each guy got to decide that they're going to step in a room with that player from Alabama, and we're going to see who's going to come out of that room, because it's not just a game. It's going to be a fight. Alabama is a monster. I told everybody, Alabama is a great team. They coach well. They have big guys. They have strong guys. They've been here before. This is a place they're used to. This is a young place for Georgia. But I think Georgia's going to show people they can play football. One of the things I said last week out in California is Georgia do not want to get in a shootout against Oklahoma. Georgia got in a shootout, They ended up winning it. So Georgia has proven a lot of people wrong the whole year, and I think they're going to do it this coming night.
Well, Herschel Walker here with us on Golic and Wingo. You will be able to knock me over with a feather or a donut if we have a shootout here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think that'll happen.
You could make a lot of money from those fancy places that have lots of lights and neons and gaming things if you took that it's going to be a shootout and that actually plays out. So give us the scenario for both teams. What do you think Alabama has to do to win this game tonight?
Well, I think what Alabama got to do is they're going to. I think it's going to be in Jalen Hurts' hands, because the defense is going to play well. I think both defenses are going to play well. I think you can't give anything. The defense is going to play well, but it's going to boil down to what offense can score points. I think Jalen Hurts is going to have to show that he can throw the ball against Georgia's defense, and I think Georgia's going to have to show that they can control the ball on their side. I think one thing that Georgia has to do, they got to show that they can throw those little intermediate passes. I don't think you want to go up and try to run Chubbs and Michelle up against that defense all night long. Show that you can throw those little 5 yards, those little 6 yards. And, Georgia got that big receiver that give him a chance to go up against those smaller defensive backs from Alabama and get those defensive linemen tired. When that defensive lineman, they get tired, then it makes it easier to run the ball. I don't think you want to run into a brick wall all night long.
Yeah, Georgia, the way they were throwing on 1st and 10, 2nd and 5 and 4 for an offense is a pretty good position to be in. What do you see as the biggest difference from when we're showing tons of highlights of you either running past people or the viciousness that you were running over them? Yeah. It's really incredible. But the runners back when you were doing it, and the guys in the NFL today, that running back position, how it's used today.
Well, I think there are people trying to forget about the running back position in the NFL. I tell running backs coming out of college, I said, be able to catch the ball. One of the things I want to see running backs do is catch the ball. So when it becomes 3rd and long, you're not taken out of the game. You stay in the game. That's one thing I love about Michelle here at Georgia. Yep. When it's 3rd and long, he's in the game because he can catch. A lot of the guys, Swift from Georgia, can catch the ball. I want to see running backs stay in the game and be involved in the whole game, not just be involved in first down, second down, and then go out. Be an all-around running back. I wanted to play football. If they had asked me to play linebacker, I would have said I would have loved to play it. I ran down on kickoffs. I ran down on punts because I wanted to be a football player, not just a runner. I wanted to go out and just play football and enjoy it.
And these backs, too, better learn to pick up a blitz, too, right?
That's exactly right. Today, linebackers are getting bigger, and you got to learn to pick up a blitz. You got to learn to block. And, that's one thing that I think is very crucial today is learn to read a defense. One of the things I think helped me out a great deal is that was a guy when I got to the Cowboys named Danny White. Danny White said, Herschel, learn what every offensive lineman is doing. Learn his position, learning who he's blocking, because when you're running the ball, you know your strongest lineman from your weakest lineman. So you know what he's going to be doing. You know how to run the ball then, and I think that can help out a lot of running backs.
It certainly can, and as we're watching the highlights as we're on ESPN2 here, when I see Herschel run, there's only 2 people I ever saw in my life. I mean, Jim Brown played a lot before I was watching football, so he would certainly fall into that category as well. But the 2 guys that I saw that ran the similar way were Herschel and a guy named Marcus Dupree.
Oh, yeah.
There was a great 30 for 30, him the best that never was because he went to the USFL.
You also got to think of Earl Campbell. I think a lot of people forget about Earl Campbell, but I said, Earl Campbell was absolutely amazing. And Marcus Dupree was no doubt absolutely incredible.
Just running people over left and right, man against boys. Herschel, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Really great thing you're doing. Great thing you're doing with Rocky Ridge and First Responders True American Truck Hero giveaway. Herschel Walker, ladies and gentlemen, the absolute Georgia legend. We are here. The fans have been with us all morning. We appreciate all you guys out there showing up with us.
Did you see, was it yesterday, the day before, Mike and Jason Fitz, who they're doing the Twitter about an hour before the game. They'll be on Twitter Live. They went up in the blimp.
I would like to go up in the blimp. Have you ever done that?
I have not done that.
Yeah, because I have a fear of heights.
I don't. I would love to do that. I think it would be really cool.
When I rappelled this summer to raise some money for Shatterproof, which helps people with addiction, an opioid addiction, I thought I was all good until they said, well, just lean over the side of the building now.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
At least
it took me a while to get there.
At least in a blimp, you're in something.
Yeah.
I think it'd be pretty cool.
It was rough. Just leaning over the edge was not fun. It was not fun for David Pollack, is what we were talking about, eating that donut, the first sweet he's had in 10 years. We put it up on our Twitter feed on Golic and Wingo. Could you go 10 years without sweets like David Pollack? 57% were honest. They said not a chance.
Are you kidding?
11% said I can't go 10 hours.
Yes.
20% yes, but I'd hate it. And 12% are just not even remotely telling the truth. They said absolutely.
20% of those people said they could do it. I don't believe it.
I don't believe that for a second.
Do not believe it one bit.
No, there's no way you could do that. No way. Okay, so it's it. We're coming to the end of the show. It's time for us to put it all on the line. Mike, Alabama going for 5-9. Georgia going for their first national championship in 37 years. Who wins tonight and why?
I really do like this matchup a lot because, as I've been stating, it is going to be decided, I think, on the lines of scrimmage. I do think a lot is going to go on Jake Fromm. That first down passing that we saw, giving him second and really second down in the entire playbook type of plays that can be detrimental to a defense. Because it's going to be hard to keep slamming Sony Michel and Nick Chubbs into that Alabama defense. So I know they will keep trying and trying and trying. The Alabama offense, not a juggernaut, but Jalen Hurts, we keep talking about him making plays downfield, also plays with his feet.
Yep.
He can rip off a 50-yard run just as easily as any of their running backs. So,
without question.
And then Bo Scarborough, the monster running back for Alabama as well. But
he's 42, by the way.
This is one I'm really looking at the defenses here. I think it is going to be low scoring, but I just think the Alabama defense is too good in this game. I really do.
Boy, the Golic's cars are both going to get eggs.
The one thing I will say is I can't see if Georgia gets down in this game, just like they did it against Oklahoma. They were way down. They came back. The freshman quarterback doesn't worry me one bit.
No.
The fact that you're saying, you're starting a true freshman quarterback. This kid has been money.
He's been
great. If they have to come back and just throw the ball and get out of the scheme, which they don't want to do, and it'll be harder for them to do, but I got confidence in that kid whipping the ball around. But at the end of the day, I do have a low-scoring game. I'm going to go 21, somewhat low-scoring. I'm 21-17. Alabama, I think, is going to win this game.
But what did you say before the national semifinal against Clemson? You said every time I want to go against Alabama, I've been proven wrong. Right?
I have. I got proven wrong once in a long time when they lost to Clemson in the title game. I just keep going with those two until you prove otherwise. Will I come on the show tomorrow and say, oh my God, one of the greatest upsets ever if Georgia wins? Absolutely not. Georgia is absolutely capable of winning this football game without question. I just think Alabama has a little more and will win it.
Well, look, when we had Maria Taylor on, who obviously is a Georgia alum and works for us and does a great job on the SEC Network and College Game Day, she said something that I thought was very interesting, because Kirby Smart is basically Nick Saban light. And in the kind of ways, Georgia is kind of Alabama light. When has it ever been successful for someone to try and beat Alabama playing Alabama's style of football? That just hasn't happened. And let's take away the 11-0 that Nick Saban is against his assistants, because I think this team and this assistant, which is Kirby Smart, is the best chance that anybody's had to do it. But at the end of the day, you have to look at that defense of Alabama. I want to believe Georgia can do it, but if you're asking me who I think is going to do it, my car's going to get egged too. I think you have to go with Alabama here. Again, if Georgia, be quiet, you got a truck. If Georgia wins it, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm hoping for a great game.
And
I want a great game.
And the listeners and viewers think it might be at Golic and Wingo on Twitter. We asked the question. Tons of people voted 53% for Alabama, 47% for Georgia, so they have it close as well.
By the way, we're live from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the College Football Championship. It's tonight on ESPN, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Don't forget, the MegaCast has everything you need to do, including the coach's film room about how to watch it. We just need to get the O-line, D-line room in there.
Got to do it
for the next time. Thanks for being with us here from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We'll see what happens tonight. Alabama, Georgia.
Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.